Okay, so we're going to do Tuesday the 21st based on the transcript that you sent me. Um, I'm going to just show you explain my chart with the jigsaw platform and the footprint chart so that you can get an idea how that works as well. So here I have two jigsaw domes. And typically, what I do is I let one run accumulating all the volume for the whole day without refreshing it. And this one, the one below, I use when I'm actually in a trade or anticipating a trade. And I'll show you on one of my charts how I use that when a signal is generated. The footprint chart in the back is standard. The first line is the delta, second line is cumulative delta, and the third line is the volume. I don't use the cumulative delta very often, but I put it up there because you had a question about it. This is a four range footprint chart on the ES. I set it to the RTH so that you could see the initial delta for the day on the first bar and see how it's calculated. So I'm going to start this now on replay. And we're going to go to the first bar of the day. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you his chart set up. This is about what he was talking about just prior to the open here. Apparently, he took a trade just near the open on the short side. This is the ES here, and this is the 6J, the yen down here. We'll look at that later, but I want you to see the delta, the first delta bar first. And notice that jigsaw is accumulating here. Okay, there's the first bar on the four range bar. So the first delta of the day now is positive, going back and forth. Both are starting from zero. And I assume that's how your platform works. So now, when the next bar develops, the cumulative delta will add, and the delta will be the absolute value of the bar that you're on. So there's the second bar, okay? And this is essentially how it works. The delta on the first bar, the net delta, was minus 2531. The cumulative delta, of course, is the same. It's the first bar of the day. Now, the calculation for the next bar, now this is standard regardless whether you're on a range bar chart, a minute chart, or whatever. Doesn't matter, okay? It's the difference between the delta and the previous cumulative delta. So where I stopped it right now in time, okay, this bar is not finished, all right? You're going to be subtracting 191 from a negative 2531, and so that your current cumulative delta is minus 2340. And that's how it calculates all day long. The volume is just the volume on that four range chart. That's all it is. And it's the same thing if you had a 5 minute chart. You'd be looking at the 5 minute volume. I don't put up any of the other indicators like cumulative volume and all of that. I really don't use it. The only thing I really use is the delta, and the volumes I'm looking at on Jigsaw anyway. So moving to his chart, and I just did it on a 5 minute to drill it down a little bit, and not have it on a 15-minute chart. Got it here. Here. Okay. So here you could see some synchronicity between the yen and the ES. And I posted a couple of articles for you and a couple of tables so that you understand what the correlation is between the two. There's a graph that I'm giving you that shows you the recent correlation, the last 30, 60, 90, 120-day correlation numbers for various instruments. So, for instance, when you look at the ES versus the yen, you'll see in the last 90 days, I think they had like a 93, 95% correlation factor. I personally don't use the correlations during the day because the timing, um, I don't feel is that accurate. I don't think that one really leads the other close enough that it's going to benefit you during the day. Um, Bigger time frames, sure, you can see that. What he was referring to on the carry trade is something specific for the currencies. A carry trade is an investor who borrows. In this case, it would be the yen. He would be borrowing against the yen at a very low interest, even a zero rate of interest. He takes those yen, converts them into dollars. With the dollars, he buys high yield bonds. As the high yield bonds accumulate profit, and as long as the yen does not increase in value, he is in the money. He's making profit on somebody else's money, okay, because he's not really paying much interest here, and he was able to buy a high yield bond up here if this was a bond, and accumulate his profit here to whatever point he wants, and then he bails the trade with his profit, pays back the yen, uh, uh, closes out that particular trade, and he owes practically nothing on the yen interest. Now, conversely, if the yen starts to move up like this, and he made a comment, I think it was the next day, that when the yen was rallying or whatever, it was really moving up strong. Well, the carry trade, is all of a sudden it's becoming very costly. What the ratio is, you don't know unless you know the details of the trade. But if they're very close, in other words, if he's very dependent an interest rate that's very low and to stay there, and that thing starts scooting up, he can start losing a load of money here because all the profit that he's making here, he's going to have to pay back here in the interest. So that's what a carry trade is. So and the yen is actually the yen and the dollar and other instruments is what they do in these pair trades. I've never done it. I just know what it is. So that's what he was referring to. Now he entered the market someplace up here just after the open. I think it was up here around 78. He said it was holding on the double top, which it did. And so I'm going to go back to this other chart now so that you can see what's going on with the footprint and with the dome. That's the ZB. I'll show you my trade there. Let's see, which one is this? Oh, that's a 5 minute. We don't really need a 5 minute chart. Move down there. Okay, so we're back here on the four range chart of the ES, and so now we see the delta has been fundamentally negative since the open. This, by the way, is the bid and the ask, and the cumulative delta is accumulating negative, if that means something to you, and this is the volume. One of the things on the footprint chart, why I like the bid and the ask, is because it can show you direction as you're moving along in time. And the way it shows you that is fairly straightforward. This is the buy side, this is the sell side. If you see, you're across here in on 4 or 5 price levels here from I don't know, what is it, 76.50 up to about 78. You see that the buying up here is very thin, but you see that the selling down here is very thick. Okay, as your bars move along here, you're seeing that same pattern, and you're seeing the negative delta down here. Now the value of this is that this is the RTA chart, so it's a little bit hard to demonstrate, but at the open or near the open, very often you see in the ES, and I don't trade the ES very often, but I know that this is fairly common. You'll see some buying on this side, buying, 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 and what you see is that you see this ratio becoming stronger on the negative side. When you get to a top, okay, this might be inverted one bar before this negative bar. Then all of a sudden at the top, you're going to see this inversion where you have a light buying up here, heavy selling down there, and that's when you start looking for a reversal. Now you'll see that also when there's a pullback during the day. So as we go forward here, okay, you see that bar. Okay, let's stop here a minute. Okay. Here's a good example of possibly a pullback or just before, tanking, because you see this strong selling down here. But here you have a little bit more buying than you have selling here. Those ratios are very important, I think, because it gives you a heads up of what the big traders or what the cumulative effect of all the trades on the current bar is. So the cumulative effect on this bar here is slightly to the positive side, as you can see in the delta, and you see it in the next one here, and you see it's higher on this delta. But look at this, you have a negative, you have a much larger number down here than you do on the buy side. So now I want to go to the chart that has the trades on it. Make sure it's working. Okay. So now I'm just going to show you, how I would approach it if I was trading the ES. This is just my setup that I had described to you, how I use the footprint,